What's up, guys? Brand new show. We're just on here talking about picks. Not another CFB pod with PG and Squilly. We're just here to give our takes on some picks, have a good time, and hopefully win some money.
College football's back.
Yeah, college football's back. It was kind of back last week. Like week 0 was a good teaser. We both had good weekends. So I hope to, translate that on to week 1. The pick I want to start with is one that I just found today that I really like, and I wanted to get your take on it as well. Because it's kind of, like you said, we were talking about before we started recording, there's not as much data to go off of, so this is kind of a unique thing. And this game in particular is a lot of that because you got 2 new coaches. Boise State at UCF Thursday night. I'm looking at the over 68, and here's why. Boise State has a new play caller, Tim Plow. I think I'm saying his name right. Last season, he ran a play. He was the Utah State offensive coordinator, if I'm not mistaken. He ran a play every 20 seconds, so they're really fast paced. He's playing against Gus Malzahn, who's the new coach at UCF, and UCF in the past has been a juggernaut scoring wise, and they still are loaded offensively. It's just going to be interesting to see what kind of offense Gus Malzahn wants to run, and if he can continue with that pace. I like the over personally, but I wanted to hear what you thought about it.
So before we were even talking, remember I had the line I had a question about. It was exactly this line, the over under 68 in this game, because of the fact that Central Florida under Gus Malzahn is questionable because in Auburn, I mean, against the SEC opponents, you have to run offense differently. You cannot play run and gun. I'm a little bit bearish on overs in week 1. Especially overs that are approaching 70, just because if you look at that UAB Jacksonville State game that's happening tonight, these teams are sloppy. Yeah. It's probably been a long preseason, lots of COVID stuff. These kids, I mean, they're going to be dealing with it all year with the testing and all that. I think this is a good. I like both these teams. I love that the new play caller for Boise is going to go fast. I think if they're going to go fast and run a play, under every 30 seconds of the play clock, I love that. I think you got to take the over here. I tried to stay away from those. Week 0, there were a lot of unders because there were a lot of bad teams. But these are 2 talented teams with 2 proven play callers. And I think Malzahn will be more than willing with the team he's got in UCF to move the ball, and especially them at home. I love them at home. They love to move at home. Their fans love when they play like that. I think that's a great pick. I think I'll jump on that over as well. Maybe just a half unit, just because it's, for me, I don't love the totals in week 1. Yeah. I'm a little wary of them, so I'm mostly on spreads. Yeah. So speaking of that.
Go ahead. I was just going to.
Yeah, so go ahead. No, you got
it. I stepped on your toes. I was just. The only reason I love it is just because it's just one of those fun bets. Like, that's a game I know I'm going to be watching, and I want to see points. So it's kind of like it's just what I want to do. But I also think there's some credit to it too. I think it's going to be a fun game, and we could see a lot of points. So anyway, that's my first pick on Thursday.
I love that. And so I'm going to go the game before that, the sort of kickoff game here, which I think are going to be 2 sides of either coin. Temple and Rutgers. The under 52 in that game. Temple is replacing tons of guys off the board. They are not looking to have a great season here in the American, which is, starting to really stack itself up, bringing itself to be that top group of 5 conference. And Rutgers, except for one game where they went to triple OT against Michigan last year, didn't put it over 30 points in, I believe, 8 of their 11 games, or 7 of their 8 games as they played the Big Ten schedule. Mm-hmm. So they do not score a lot of points. Again, teams are going to come out sloppy. 52 is a reasonable total, I think, and I think it goes under. I think it goes way under. I don't think Temple scores at all. I like this Rutgers team under Schiano. I think they can play spoiler to a couple teams in the Big Ten. And I think that under 52, just for week 1, is going to hit, especially given that the line for Rutgers is minus 14.5 full game, and this Temple team really struggles to score. So the Vegas looks there that they're seeing a Rutgers big win. I don't know if Rutgers can score enough points to get that over and get that cover in the 14.5.
Yeah, I like that pick a lot. And I think that anything in the low 50s range, as long as I don't have to dip below 50, I'm pretty comfortable, especially in a game like that. I think the pace is going to be perfect for an under like that. I've got a good play.
100%.
I've got a good play for you, and this kind of goes along with what we did last week, which is just basically bet against really bad teams. It's still Thursday night. Bowling Green at Tennessee. This is kind of crazy, but I'm taking Tennessee minus 35.5. They're replacing almost the whole team because everyone transferred. They're with a brand new coach, brand new systems, but they play a really fun style of offense, or they're going to, I think. And Bowling Green is just that bad. 35.5. It's a huge number, especially for a team like this. But Bowling Green, I mean, Vegas wouldn't set it like this if they didn't understand how bad Bowling Green is. Most of all the power rankings I've seen, they are dead last, and they are last below those teams we talked about before that didn't play last season. So, I mean, this is the bottom of the barrel. Tennessee's a bad SEC team, sure, but that's a lot better than a bad MAC team. There are MAC teams that are blowing Bowling Green out by 45. So I think this one, it's a fun play. It's going to be kind of ridiculous. It's one of those games to watch that it's just going to be kind of bad. But I love betting against teams that are this bad, especially this early in the season.
Yeah, 100%. And the big thing about Tennessee, and this is a game that I have the minus 21.5 first half for Tennessee, I think is as close to a lock as you can get, because Tennessee's fans, regardless of how good the team is, they get up for these games. And this game is in Tennessee, week 1, 8 p.m., prime time. Most people are going to be watching Ohio State, Minnesota. I think Tennessee just blows this game out regardless of how many guys are coming in. If you can find it, this is another pick I'll give. I might jump on that 35.5. I think that number's a little long for Tennessee to score themselves because they're so new, but I love the 21.5 first half. If you can find it on any book, Tennessee minus 9.5 first quarter.
Oh, yeah.
That is a lock. There is no way Tennessee is not up 14-0 by the end of the first quarter, or at least up 10-0. They're going to be moving the ball in this Bowling Green defense just purely due to the fact that they have SEC players and Bowling Green's got MAC guys.
That's right. And like I said, it's not just that they're MAC guys versus SEC guys. It's like bottom of the barrel MAC guys, so it's a big difference.
100%.
I've got one more play for Thursday night. And this one is another one of those plays. I want to pick it just because it's a game that everyone's going to be watching. I'm looking at Ohio State at Minnesota. I'm going to go ahead and take it. I'm going to go ahead and take Ohio State minus 14. Love the talent. And I think even in a bad game with as much talent as they have, they still can win by 17. At worst, I think a push. Even I give a lot of respect to Minnesota. I like what they're doing. They got a veteran quarterback, a really good running back too. They've got some really unproven wide receivers, and I think that the coaching staff at Ohio State's smart enough. We're going to load against the run. We're not going to let Ibrahim beat us, and we're just going to let our talent do the work. We just have so much more talent than these other teams. We've got the loaded receiver room. We believe in this quarterback just because he beat out, 3 other 5-star guys in camp. So it's a pick I like, and it's one that I know I'm going to be watching. So somebody made this point at the end of the game. Who would you rather be pulling for? Would you rather be pulling for Ohio State and all these 5-stars, or would you be crossing your fingers praying that this Minnesota team can somehow find a way to cover at the end against this team that's won the Big Ten, I think 6 times in a row now or something like that. I don't know how many times, but a bunch of times.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm with you there on the Ohio State minus 14. I think the difference is going to be made on the Ohio State defensive side of the ball. I think they'll stack the box early downs and they'll make them beat them on the outside with passing. I think Minnesota will struggle. Fleck's a good coach. He can recruit. He can really get the fire lit under his kids, but I don't think they can match. And I think this will be. I'm kind of leaning for this to be a true coming out party to see how good this Ohio State Buckeye wide receiver room really is in comparison over the rest of the weekend to the other wide receiver groups in the country. I don't think anyone on Minnesota's defense, if Ohio State gets to decide we're going to throw the ball and they have the weather to throw the ball, I think Minnesota's going to be in big, big trouble trying to keep up. I love also, I'm on the minus 14. I also love the minus 7 first half. Ooh. And I have a tried and true, this thing, and my brother always taught me is buy the point to win, never buy the point to push. So if you feel comfortable bumping it to like a minus 120, get that minus 13.5, get that minus 6.5, buy those half points to win. That'll get you, so you don't end up with the push. You can get the win right there. It's a weird thing, but I've always felt that you get bad karma when you buy the point to get the push, and you get good karma when you buy the point to get the win.
I know exactly where you're at, and that first half line, I like that a lot. Do you have any more picks for Thursday? Or are you ready to move to Friday?
So I have one more pick for Thursday, and it's entirely, I don't know anything about either of these two teams. I just know what their track records have been and how they've been trending the last 2 years. NC State, South Florida. I really like NC State -10 in the first half. I think the line being set at ±19 for the full game just demonstrate how poorly South Florida has been trending since they had that one great year, maybe in 2016, when they could really compete with the UCFs of the world. And North Carolina State, NC State has been trending really well. They've been starting to recruit. They can really, I think they're going to do some decent damage, play a little bit of spoiler in the ACC this year for a couple of teams. I'm looking at you, North Carolina, hopefully not. I've got a future on that. But I like the NC State Wolfpack -10 first half. I think it's a solid tail. Maybe not 2 units, a half unit might be before. I'm just going straight up 1 unit there.
I like that. And one thing too with that NC State team, that's a very, very veteran group. That group's been together for a long time. The core of that team. So I love that you said too that they could play spoiler in the ACC. You never know. Veteran group like that.
100%. I think they play a solid number of programs on that schedule who are looking to come out of the ACC. Miami, UNC, obviously Clemson, so it's going to be interesting with them this year. But I'm good on that for Thursday, so let's move to Friday. I think the games on Friday are significantly better in terms of quality, at least 2 of them, than the games on Thursday.
I think it's funny that you bring up the quality because this first pick I'm about to give is a very low-quality game, but it's one that I'm still really excited about because it's one we talked about. This is Old Dominion at Wake Forest. Looking at Wake, -31 for the game. It's a lot of points, but listen, this Wake offense, very veteran group, Sam Hartman. A lot of people remember him. He was on Elite 11, really put on a show. I like him a lot. This Wake team can score, and I think they have 10 starters back on defense. I'll have to look through my notes. Either way, they return all 11 on offense. So I really like that. This is a group that's been together for a long time as well, and I think they're going to put points up. As we know, Old Dominion didn't play football last year, and we love betting against those teams.
Yep, I think we saw it week 0. The teams that did not play last year, you have to take all the points against them, regardless, and especially the ACC. I think it's really important that we move forward with just betting against these teams that didn't play last year. They are going to struggle, and they're going to struggle early and struggle often. I think you got to take Wake here. The points, take the first half if you want to, but I think Wake will pour it on in the second half when this Old Dominion team's conditioning just kicks in after having played in a team who, Wake can compete. They haven't been doing so in the last couple of years, but with a veteran group, I think Old Dominion's going to struggle mightily.
Nice. What else you got for us on Friday?
So this is one of my big picks. I took this a few weeks ago. I am super high on North Carolina this year. I know they lost a lot of their playmakers on the outside. Howell is the second best quarterback in the country, I would argue, behind Rattler.
They're all up there in that first tier.
Yeah,
for sure.
They're definitely, and I think North Carolina -5.5, even with them going to Virginia Tech. I think this team UNC is on a mission this year. I think they're going to come in and they have to show, because they have a much more challenging schedule than Clemson does, playing in the Coastal. They have to play Miami. They have to play Notre Dame. It's just going to be significantly more difficult for them. I think they're going to come out and play these games that, these away games that might be tough. But week 1, I think North Carolina covers this easily, wins by 10, maybe even 2 scores.
I love this pick. I was on it already. In fact, it's the one I have highlighted next, so we can spend a little extra time on this. I actually got this a couple weeks ago myself, and I actually guess I got it at 5. That's what I put it in at. I don't think it's going to matter. Like you said, I think they end up winning by 2 scores. The athletes you mentioned, big advantage there. Where I'm looking at another advantage is the head coaching advantage. Mac Brown's won a national championship. He's got this team rolling. On the other hand, you got Fuente, who's trying to save his job. The team's falling apart. Their starting quarterback transferred to try and be the starter at Tennessee. He didn't even win that job. I love UNC here. The only thing is, this is on the road. Virginia Tech's, they're going to be doing that intro that they do with the is it ACDC? No.
Oh, it's Metallica. It's Enter Sandman.
Enter Sandman. I'm so sorry to all the Virginia Tech fans. Enter Sandman. It's a pretty electric intro.
It's awesome.
It's awesome, and I'll be watching that one for sure. But I'm all over North Carolina here, -5, -5.5, wherever you can get it. I think it's still around that. They're giving a big, I think this is Vegas kind of saying this is a big home field advantage, and it is probably a good one. But seems like there's a talent discrepancy here, and there's a massive coaching discrepancy as well.
So the one thing I will say specific to the Virginia Tech Enter Sandman entrance, usually that home game that they run that entrance is much more effective when it's dark out. This game kicks off at 6 p.m. It's not going to have the same effect. It's going to be, and this Virginia Tech team, I don't think they're ready to play. I think this North Carolina team is ready to come out, show people who they are, what they got, and Howell's going to twist it up. He's going to be launching the ball.
I think you're right, man. Can't wait for that one. That's all I had for Friday. I don't know if you have any extra ones.
So I do. So I have two more. I'll go with my more basic one, then I'll go with my big play that I've got. So Michigan State, Northwestern. I took the alt line just a half point above Northwestern -3.5. They'll probably get them at 3 most places. I love Northwestern this season. They are replacing a lot of guys. I think Pat Fitzgerald is a great coach. I don't see Michigan State competing significantly, much at all this year in the Big Ten. I don't see them making waves or making noise. Northwestern, they're riding very high off their victory last year. They're playing at home. I just think this is a nice game to take this Northwestern team. Going to be a low-scoring affair. Totals 46. I think Northwestern's just purely better coached across the board. Likely has a more solid collection, in terms of the core that they've got. I just like Northwestern here. This may not be a big play for a lot of people. You may want to stay away from it. It's going to be a boring game, but I think it's worth it to play the Northwestern here, play the coaching discrepancy, and just play the team that's coming out hot and knows they're due for another big season, which this Northwestern team has seen. They've been on the rise for these last few years.
Yeah, and it'll be a revenge game too. I guess Michigan State got them last year, beat them at home. And then, but you mentioned that Northwestern's kind of riding a high. They beat Auburn in their bowl game as well, so kind of ended the season in the right way. You like to see that?
Yeah, I think they're they just have the right personalities coaching their style of team. I think Fitzgerald is great for that program, and I think they're going to be juiced to come out. The revenge game is a huge factor, and obviously them expecting to play at home opener. I think it'll be great. And so lastly for me, and this one is going to be interesting, Duke versus Charlotte. I'm a Duke alum. Yeah. The team was last year terrible. I have very low expectations for this team. But Charlotte has not beaten a Power 5 football team in school history. Charlotte's the newest FBS football team in the entire Division I conference. We were horrible last year, and we beat them 53-19. Duke won 53-19. The line is 6. I stretched it out to 10. I put 2 units on it. Duke is a much better, they have a lot more guys coalescing this year. It's going to be a better team than last year. I guarantee it. They will not win. They will not go 2-9 again. I just don't see how Charlotte keeps it within a touchdown. There's just no chance.
I love that. I may have to pick that up myself. I mean, because at the end of the day, a bad ACC team versus a brand new FBS team that's not even a good one yet, and then we look at last year's result. We know we've got a lot of guys coming back from that game. So I love that pick.
Yeah. I just think it is strange to me to have a total at 60.5 and a line at +6 when it's the ACC playing a weak G5 team and brand new FBS team. I just think Duke rolls here. 2 units on it. I think that's a great play for Friday, and those are my Friday plays. I'm not taking any totals.
Love that. I don't have many totals myself, but one total I do have that I want to kick off our Saturday discussion with, because this is a big game. I'm not going in chronological order here. I'm just kind of jumping around.
No worries.
I saw this line yesterday, and it really raised some eyebrows. So this is Georgia and Clemson. I'm going over 50. I think you do have some really, really good defenses facing off. That's a fact. These are great defenses. Many are saying this might be Clemson's best defense, but here's the thing. You've got so much offensive talent on both these teams. This is not a high total. 27-24, that's a low-scoring game, but that goes over. And I could see something like that. I also could see this game just breaking open, and these teams with so much offensive talent, finding ways to score. I love this play. I thought it would be closer to 60. Honestly, even with how good these defenses are, it's just that the offenses and the offensive minds involved, I think, are so good. I love this play. I was all over it.
Yeah, 100%. I personally, so at least given right now, my strategy for the late Saturday games is to stay away to sort of see how the day progresses. But I like your call there, and I think a big point for me is when you see these great, really talented, top-tier college football contending teams going against each other in a neutral site, it's always more of a shootout than it is a shutdown.
Yep.
It's when they have to go to one person's place, one team's on the road, and you got the fans, I think that's a different story. But 50 points as a total with these two teams, with how talented they are. Mm-hmm. I know the defenses are good, but Georgia's offense is going to be much improved this year. They're, with Daniels coming back, they definitely struggled in terms of putting points on the board last year. The receivers they're starting to get older, more experienced. I like that pick a lot. Personally, I'm going to stay away for now just to see how the day progresses, see if that line moves at all. I'm also going to stay off that spread pretty much entirely, but I will give a decent pick here. I think the Georgia money line in a neutral site game, take the underdog. You can get some value there. I think, a plus 130 or plus 150, whatever it is right now, I think it's worth taking a look at if you're going into these evening games up. And on that point, I'll sort of transition to the one evening game that I did take, which is UTSA, the Roadrunners, at Illinois, and Illinois minus 5.5. Yeah. Illinois, yes, riding very high. I think Bielema has got something going with that Illini program. Those kids on the defensive side of the ball are flying around. UTSA is another G5 team. Illinois is going to pound them with the rock. Mm-hmm. There might be issues with the quarterback for Illinois, but I think 5.5 points, they can win by 10 points, a touchdown, 10 points. I think that's the one game of the 7:30s that I'm very comfortable taking because the Illini, once again, will be at home. And you saw how rowdy that stadium was getting for them, and now it's a night game. So that's just, that builds upon itself. So I love that pick there for the evening games. I think, regardless of how UTSA comes out, I just don't think they have the same level of coaching staff and talent on both sides of the ball, dependent on the quarterback position for Illinois to keep it within one score.
Yeah, I like that too because this is almost like a double, fade the smart public people because a lot of people I've seen are on UTSA because they think people are going to be on Illinois and that's going to move the line. But as you've said, that line has crept down to underneath the touchdown now. And I think it's the right time to pounce on Illinois. I liked what I saw from them. A lot of momentum rolling in. And like you said, a big home game. Crowd should be going. I've got one that I've kind of went back and forth on. I already took it, so I was kind of married to it. But this is an early game, and this is a neutral site game. This is Stanford versus Kansas State. It's happening in Dallas at the Cotton Bowl, at the AT&T, whatever.
Yeah, it's in
Jerry's
Atlanta.
World.
Yeah.
It's a game that I like a lot because of the talent Kansas State has with Skylar Thompson, Deuce Vaughn. Very explosive team when healthy, and right now they're healthy. Stanford, on the other hand, they ripped off at the end of their season. They won 4 straight. They played a lot better when I was looking into this than I remembered. They did squeak some lucky wins out, but they beat some good teams along the way. They beat Washington at Washington. All 4 of those wins at the end of the season were on the road. I just think the way this is trending, it seems like all the word out of Kansas State camp is these guys have really bought into Kleiman's system. And with them being healthy, having Skylar Thompson back, there's a lot of confidence with this team. I got it at -2. It's hovering around Kansas State -2.5 now, but I still like that. It's underneath a field goal. It's going to be, I think, a sneaky good game, but it comes at a time slot where there's a lot going on. I don't know if a lot of people will watch this or not, but I'm on it. Kansas State -2.5.
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested in this being a neutral site game. I think a big deal is whenever West Coast teams have to travel east, even for 1 time zone, 2 time zones, and they have to play at noon, they're going to struggle.
Yep.
And they, I think they're going to struggle early. I think I'm off this for now. I'm seeing Kansas State -3 at this point in time. I like that team, Kansas State, last year. I thought they had a lot. They play with a lot of energy. They really do fly around on both sides of the ball. I might stay away. The one thing I might look at is Kansas State first half, just to see if Stanford comes off the bus a little stiff, a little slow. We don't know what day they're getting into Dallas, so I think that'll be interesting. I definitely think I like that pick there. I'll stay away for now just because of what I've got here, and I'll go to another noon game, not a neutral site, but probably maybe not the biggest game for you as an OU guy, but probably the biggest game in terms of, that starting point, the Penn State-Wisconsin game. I looked at this game a few weeks back when they first dropped the lines. I took Wisconsin -4.5 pretty much straight off the bat. I know James Franklin is kind of in this sort of space where he's got to get as many wins against the top, ranked teams as possible. I just don't trust Penn State's quarterback play on the offensive side of the ball. I don't see them, having these same offenses that they had in, say, like 2019 and 2018. They just don't seem like a team that can consistently score and stay with a team like Wisconsin, which is going to have a great defense. They're obviously going to reload in the run game. I think 4.5 points. Right now it's sitting at 5.5, so things have moved towards Wisconsin. I think you take that 5.5 too. I could see Penn State keeping it a little close, but I like this Wisconsin pick. I think they're going to be a great team. I think they'll easily run the Big Ten West this year. I don't think that'll be an issue with them, as they do pretty much every year, dependent on Northwestern. But I think this Wisco team is looking good and looking solid, and I think they're going to come out and really take it. I love having them at 4.5, I will say. I could be a little bit wary about the 5.5, but I think you take it regardless. I think Wisconsin wins this game pretty handily.
Yeah, you're still inside a touchdown there too. And one other angle might be, if I'm not mistaken, Wisconsin got a pretty big running back transfer. I can't remember his name off the top. But also, you're fading Clifford, the quarterback from Penn State. I'm not a big believer in him. You might have talked me into this one. I might be on Wisconsin myself. I do like that pick.
Yeah.
And also, you brought up OU, which is right over my shoulder. I was on this game early. I gave it out at the post-game Twitter space that we did. At the time was OU -26.5, and the hurricane was coming down. And it looked like the rumors were, hey, this might move to OU. I jumped on it. My book refunded me. I'm sure a lot did, and they remade the line. And it's now 31.5, which is a big number, especially against Tulane, who's not a bad team. My thing is, they were practicing all week in Birmingham, Alabama, which I believe they rode a bus to there, and then they've got to fly into Norman. I just think that's tough to do. Not only that, but I think OU's first team is good enough to get up that many points, and their second string should still be able to maintain a lead. You've got a lot of studs who are fighting for playing time early in the season, getting this extra home game. It's not going to be a full stadium. They're only letting the lower bowl full. I don't know what the story is with that, but it's still going to be a good number of fans there. I think the energy is going to be good, and those second stringers for OU that are trying to get playing time are still really, really good players. I'm on OU -31.5. It's a lot of points. I wish I still had it at 26.5 because that was, whatever that is, 4 touchdowns. I like that better. But I'm still on OU here. I think there's a lot of energy coming out. This defense in particular really wants to show. And so I think if they can hold, Tulane, possibly to single digits in garbage time, they might get up to 17 or something like that. I think this will cover. And it's a pick I like.
Yeah, so I'm with you on that. I'm on -32. I had the same exact thing happen to me. I saw him at 26.5. I mean, I am extremely high on Oklahoma this year. I think it is their year to win the whole thing, as I said on the postgame on Saturday night. I am expecting the Oklahoma first stringers to come out and absolutely blitz this Tulane team, who is going to be straggling, who's going to be worried. They're going to have their minds elsewhere. They're not going to be focused on this game, and it's going to be really tough for them. And I just think that Oklahoma is ready this year to really be like, okay, this is our time. This is our chance. I don't think anyone else in the Big 12 has a chance. This team's going to blitz people all year long. Mm-hmm. I really like the -18.5 first half. I think that is almost stealing money because I think Oklahoma could easily put up 28 in the first half and one score for Tulane, maybe even a field goal, because this defense in OU is really coming into its own, which I think will be the defining factor. And if this game stays at that 31.5 number, at the end of the game as we run into the fourth quarter and you sort of watch for that backdoor play. I'm with you there in the 32, but for me, I'll jump on. I think I'm a little bit higher on the 18.5 first half just because I don't think Riley pulls his starters in a game that is surprisingly now at Norman. I don't think he pulls his starters because he wants the fans to see what kind of what kind of team he's got this year and what that program's ready to do.
Yeah, and I love that first half play in particular too, because all the reports out of camp is basically that the defensive line has really been owning this OU offensive line because they're so talented, so deep. I could see OU really using this first half as like let's get some confidence going for this offense. Let's just run these guys over. We'll leave you guys in for maybe a series longer than we normally would. That first half play, I'm adding that for sure. I've already got that in my notes. I love that play. I'm all over that as soon as I can. Actually, on Saturday, though, that's actually all I have. I added the Georgia money line as well, but we kind of already went over Georgia, so I don't want to talk about that too much more. But
yeah.
You have any more Saturday plays for us?
I do. I have 3 more games, 4 more plays, so I'll jump into one. My first one is Cincinnati, Miami of Ohio at Cincinnati. Cincinnati minus 23. I think Cincinnati is coming out this year to make a statement, and they are going, I think, again, this is a MAC team playing a team that is top 10 in their stadium. 23 points. I think Cincinnati comes out, and Miami of Ohio is obviously better than Bowling Green. I think Cincinnati comes out, blitzes them, wins this game handily. They're ready to show that they're, the kind of team. I think the Cincinnati defense may not even let Miami of Ohio get a touchdown. So I think Cincinnati comes out and rolls.
Yeah, Cincinnati's got the defense to do it, and I think you made a good point about them trying to make a statement. This is one of those games early on where they can grab a ton of attention if somebody looks up at the box score and it's 48-0 Cincinnati. And this is technically a rivalry game as well. I don't remember what trophy they play for. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but I like this pick.
Yeah, I think that one's just kind of simple. I just think, Cincinnati's coming out. They got to show that they're able to compete, and it's going to get to the end of the year, and teams are going to look at their resume, and if they don't blow out Miami, Ohio week 1, the committee's going to say, maybe this isn't the team to come in and compete with Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, OU, whatever that hodgepodge comes together as. So then moving from there, another 3:30 game. This one, this is kind of a gut pick. I sort of was just looking at this, and I was like, this is a good number. I like this. Indiana at Iowa, Indiana plus 3.5. I know Indiana's on the road. I know Iowa's got a talented team, but I looked at this total. It's 46. This is going to be a close game. Indiana's a very well coached team coming off probably their best season in recent memory. Michael Penix Jr. is back. Back from injury. He was slinging the rock, dark horse Heisman candidate late in the season before he went down. I just like Indiana to keep it close here, and if you want to sprinkle on the money line, plus 155, that's up to you. I find that sometimes you get a double loser there more often than or you go 1-1 more often than you go 2-0. So I'm going to stick with the spread plus 3.5. This Iowa team's very high ranked for early in the season. So is Indiana. I just think Indiana has a better is again. Just sort of like Northwestern, riding very high off their previous season and is looking to replicate that, and sort of the coaching staffs of both those teams want to demonstrate these are places you can come to and compete with the big boys, with the sort of entrenched blue blood programs in the Big Ten Conference. Yeah,
and I really like that pick in particular because if I'm going to be betting Indiana, I want to do it while they still have Penix in there.
Yeah,
he's just like you said, he was a dark horse Heisman candidate. He's a really gritty player, and he's able to kind of raise the level of these guys from Indiana that maybe aren't the top tier talent in the Big Ten, but he can kind of make them better. So I like that pick, getting a little more than a field goal. I like that in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I think that 3.5 is really nice, given it's a decent football number at 4. And I think 7-3 that can set the tone for the rest of the day with point scoring, and you don't expect these teams to put up a lot of points, but Indiana has proven that they can do that. They can hang with teams and they can put up numbers. So it really will depend on the pace that this game goes at, which with Iowa you always know is going to be a little bit slower.
Yep.
So on that note, that'll bring me to my last 2 picks of the day. It's obviously on the Bama-Miami game, and they're both obviously on Bama.
Yeah.
I just, I can't go away from this Bama team until they show me that they don't deserve it. They're going to reload. It's fucking Alabama. I like them -10 in the first half, and the full game -19.5. I like even more. Being under 20 is a significant boon for people who are tailing Bama there. I just don't think this Miami team is for real. I don't think they're for real in the ACC. I think they might be a challenge for some teams that have to go to their place and play. But this is a neutral site. It's week 1, 3:30 p.m., which, some would argue is the primetime slot for college football for a lot of people. I know those night games are always great, but I think the 3:30 for me tends to have a little bit more college football tradition involved with it. I think Bama is going to come out, spit and fire. I don't think Miami's ready to handle these, the defense at Bama's defensive side of the ball, the athletes that they're going to have on the defensive line and in the secondary. I mean, this is just a gut play. This is a play that says the Saban and the Tide are going to be back again this year. Their team total was set at going undefeated for regular season wins. So you can see what Vegas thinks of this team. I just think this is sort of a play that you have to take to see what this Bama team is, and you can sort of trend out for the rest of the year as they go up on their SEC schedule and against sort of their, other out-of-conference competition.
I love this pick, and I'm glad you discussed it, because it's actually the first, I think it was the first against the spread pick I made this season was Bama minus. I actually got them at 18. I didn't want to give it out just because that line had moved a little bit. It's 19.5 now, but like you said, under 3 touchdowns, still great. And I'm right with you. I kind of, when I go back and watch film of Miami last year, I just don't really see it. I went back and watched their bowl game against Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State ran them over in the first half with like their third string offensive line. Miami did come back in that game, but Oklahoma State ended up winning. And then you go back a game further and watch Miami play North Carolina last year, and North Carolina ran right through them. I don't remember the final score, but it was an absolute blowout. So I'm kind of with you, and who knows, the total health of how much are they going to run De'Aaron King? We don't know against this Bama defense. Do they really want to risk him running on that ACL that he just tore, in the final game against Oklahoma State? So I'm right there with you. I have Bama for the full game. I might even be looking at him for the first half too, because I like what you had to say there.
Yeah, and with the first half, if you see them at 10, get them down to 9, by that point down to 9.5, so you can get yourself the win there, and you don't have to deal with the push, because, with the SEC, when the SEC in the trenches play against an out-of-conference opponent, by the second half, third quarter, fourth quarter, the opponent's lines are just worn out. And then on the defensive side of the ball, that's when Bama starts bringing pressure from the linebackers, even from the quarterback sometimes. And on the offensive side of the ball, that's just where they start to really take command of the game and just run all over these teams. So that's it for me on Saturday. I love to discuss the Sunday and Monday games too. I love that we have those. I think they're both very, very watchable games, which is something that's great to have on days that you don't usually expect to have those. Yeah,
it's a bonus. So I'll start with the Sunday game. Notre Dame at Florida State. I bet we're on the same line. We may not be, but I think we are. Notre Dame minus 7.5 for the full game. I love it. Listen, Notre Dame does replace a ton of their team. I wrote it down somewhere. They returned Notre Dame has to replace 13 starters. That's what I have in my notes. So it's a big chunk of their team. But listen, this was a playoff team last year. Florida State was on life support last year. There's just a difference in terms of levels, the way they've been recruiting. I like the consistency and the program identity that Notre Dame has versus Florida State. Now, Florida State is going to be – I expect that first game, that home crowd to be rocking a little bit, Sunday night primetime game. But I don't think it's going to be enough. I think one thing about Florida State, when you watch them play in these recent years, they suck against the run. And listen, I'm not the biggest Conehead. Jack Cohn, the new quarterback for Notre Dame. I'm not necessarily a Conehead, but what I do know is if it's not working, Brian Kelly's just going to run the ball, and Florida State's not going to be able to stop him. A Notre Dame line, even if they're replacing the whole thing, is still going to be a really good offensive line. I think they're going to run over Florida State. I think this game finishes around 14 or 17 point win by Notre Dame on the road. We'll see, but I really feel good about Notre Dame's coaching advantage in this game and their identity.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I think Florida State's a mess. I'm under their team total this year for regular season wins. They also play an absolute gauntlet of a schedule. So they're going to run into a lot of problems. I think Notre Dame, Brian Kelly, he recruits linemen, he recruits tight ends, he recruits running backs, he recruits linebackers, he recruits safeties. And, those are the positions that are going to cause major problems for the opposite side of the ball on this Florida State team. I think 7.5 is underrating this Notre Dame team. I think a lot of it has to do with how many people they come in and replace. I'm also not a big Cone head. I think Cone is going to lose Notre Dame one of the games this year, whether it's against UNC or against Cincinnati, with mistakes, because I don't think he's very talented. So we'll see about that, but I love Notre Dame minus 7.5 here. I don't think the Florida State fans get up for this team anymore. I don't think there's enough hype.
Not the same. It's not the same.
It's not.
That's for
it's
sure.
not what it once was. So I think that Notre Dame 7.5 is definitely what I would play. I wouldn't play the first half here. I think it's like 4.5 or even 5. They're definitely leaning heavy on Notre Dame there. I think the 7.5 is a great call, and I think it's going to be a great sort of preliminary penultimate nightcap or penultimate ending to this game before we get to Monday's game, which I think will be a lot of fun.
Yeah, go right into Monday's game for us.
Yeah, so for me here, I am high, about as high as you could be, given that Ole Miss plays in the SEC. I am high on Ole Miss this year. I think I have Ole Miss minus 9.5 here. I think they roll this Louisville team out of town, out of their own, out of Ole Miss's building, and send them back up to Kentucky. I think and it looks like already this line is moving towards Mississippi.
I was just looking at it.
I checked earlier today. So
10.5 now.
Yeah, I got it at 9.5 about 6 hours ago. So I think Ole Miss is going to roll this Louisville team. It is in a neutral site, but this is Mississippi Ole Miss fans compared to Louisville fans traveling to Atlanta. Let's be real. Yeah. Who's going to be there? Who's going to be coming out? I think Ole Miss fans are stoked for this team. I think Kiffin has really built up the kind of culture that he wants there. They're going to be throwing it around. I think the Ole Miss QB, I'm blanking on his name, could be a dark horse. Is it
Matt
Corral? Yeah,
Matt
Corral. Yeah, he is. I think he could have a hell of a season in terms of numbers. They may not win as many games as they'd like to win because obviously they're playing in the SEC West, but I think this is a great program. I think, even at the 10.5 number, you might want to buy that down to 10 just in case, but I love Ole Miss here. I think they absolutely roll.
So I echo a lot of the same points as you. I love the offense in general. I think Lane Kiffin's really got that going on. It hasn't dropped yet on my book, but the second it does, whatever Ole Miss's team total over is, I'm taking it, unless it's like 60. I don't know if I'd take that, but they may still hit that in this game. Lane Kiffin, when he knows he's on prime time, too. This is the other thing. This is the only game on Monday. He's the only show in town. He's going to put on a show, especially against a team like Louisville where he has the opportunity to, because Louisville's okay, but they're nothing special. I don't think they're going to be able to keep up with an athlete from Ole Miss. So whatever that team total is over, I'm going to take it. I would like to take the game over as well, but it's up to 75.5 now. So I'm like, I don't know. I probably will still take it because it's so fun rooting for Ole Miss overs because they just play so fast, great pace. And I think Louisville may play with a good pace too. So I may end up on the total over as well, but I know I'm taking the Ole Miss team total over in that game.
Yeah, once that drops, I'm definitely gonna look right at it. I think the 75.5, the issue with that amount is that the other team, you have to have both teams hold up their end of the bargain when you get above 70 or even approach 70.
Yep.
And I am concerned about this Louisville team potentially being in the bottom half of a weak ACC this year, and not even the bottom half, close to the bottom. They were trending down last year, and I don't think they've improved. They've had some issues within their program itself. I mean, Louisville is always. This is more so the basketball team, but they're always embroiled in some sort of controversy. Yeah. So it doesn't lend itself to be the best environment for focus. I think you're exactly right. Lane Kiffin, he is an entertainer. at his most, other than his second occupation is an entertainer behind football coach. So he is definitely, Joey Freshwater as he used to be back in the day. So I think, exactly. I may stay off that total, but once that team total drops, I think it's awesome rooting for Ole Miss. I remember my favorite game of the 2019 season was the Ole Miss LSU game where they put up like close to 100 points. That was unbelievable, and it's always great when SEC teams do numbers like that. And I think that's the way college football is trending, and especially under Lane Kiffin and the Corral kid is the real deal, and you might look at a Heisman future for him.
Right on. Okay, well, I think that's all our picks. Right.
Yep.
So we may just wrap it here. We're going to be trying to bring this to you every Thursday. Not another CFB pod, PG and Squilly. Love to bring these picks to you. We're just having fun. So if you guys have picks too, or you disagree with one of our picks and you have a point, let us know. We love the banter. We love going back and forth with you guys. So check us out. Hopefully every Thursday, I think is the plan. So you got anything on the outro?
I think the number one outro is keep an eye out after the late game Saturday, post game with PG. We're about to be jumping on the Twitter Spaces as we usually do.
Yes.
Bring your takes, bring your beers, have a little bit of fun. It's going to be late. Everyone will be out partying Saturday, we hope. But, if you can make it on, you want to talk college sports, we'll definitely be there. So good to have you on. Inaugural episode, PG. This is going to be money going forward. Let's hope we have another undefeated weekend like we had last weekend.
Absolutely. So follow us both on Twitter. That's the best place to find us, and that's where the Twitter space will be dropping. So we'll 100%. Catch you guys later.
See you, boys.